My name is Brooke Bowen, and this is my presentation on effective planning in girls' gymnastics aged 9 to 10 years old. Using a non-traditional approach with gymnastics is not something that has been explored much, as gymnastics is a sport rooted in perfect technique and a teacher-centered approach. This presentation takes a non-traditional approach on gymnastics to ensure a rich learning environment. This gymnastics training is done outside of school hours at a gymnastics facility. It is now a highly structured program with the goal being to develop general gymnastics skills and fundamental movement skills to enhance physical literacy and confidence as an athlete. Skills learned in gymnastics can be applied to many other sports. British Gymnastics 2021. All participants have at least 1 year of gymnastics exposure at this facility and are aware of the basic rules and movements for the sport. 2 girls are categorized as gifted for the sport. Sport for girls at this age is important to develop and achieve competence, confidence, connection, and character development, as stated by Click, Culver, and Ince in 2019. As these girls are young, it is important they still have time to explore other sports and activities, as they are still learning the fundamentals but are progressing to learning to train, as seen in Bailey and Hamilton's 2004 long-term athletic development model. This is where girls are beginning to develop those fundamental sports skills while still gaining physical literacy. Girls aged 9 to 10 are reaching a point where movements feel awkward and they are clumsy. According to Health Direct Australia 2023, between the ages of 8 to 13 is when a girl begins puberty, which includes body changes with changes in height, weight, and proportions of trunk to limbs. This is because they are approaching their peak height velocity, as peak height velocity is said to be at the age of 11.18 years of age, according to a meta-analysis by Lima et al. In 2024. Because of this, many girls lose motivation and confidence in their sport. Considering that only a small number of schools have a well-designed PE program, as noted by Ofsted in September of 2023, students may lose motivation because of the structure and hard requirements placed on them. By having a low-structured approach to the sport and skills, these girls are given more of a chance to explore the sport and adapt into their new proportions, as well as develop the physical qualities that are needed to be developed at this age: sport-specific skills, agility, speed, power, and strength. Lloyd and Oliver, 2012. At the age of 9 to 10, these participants will be in Key Stage 2. By this age, the national curriculum states that these participants should have mastered the fundamental movement skills. But, according to Beham et al. 2019 and Duncan et al. 2019, only a fraction of Year 5 students have these skills mastered. For gymnastics, there are different skills that are necessary to have mastered. Buddha-Roddy et al. 2024 states that the movements young gymnasts should have mastered are marching, jogging, skipping, knee lift, height kick, jumping jacks, and lunges. While Premier Education 2025 suggests that most gymnasts at this age should be able to perform a backward roll, headstand, handstand, cartwheel, splits, bridge, and rotating jumps. Considering the wide variety of skills that gymnastics has to offer, I find that it would be beneficial for these gymnasts in Key Stage 2 to continue to refine their fundamental motor skills to a mastery level and have a greater focus on the sport-specific skills, which also help develop the other necessary skills of agility, speed, power, and strength. Lloyd and Oliver, 2012. For gymnastics, specifically in Key Stage 2, participants should be developing flexibility, strength, technique, control, and balance, as well as comparing their performance with previous ones and demonstrating improvement. Roding Primary School, 2021. This has some overlap with the national curriculum requirements and shares focus of Lloyd and Oliver's Youth Physical Development Model, 2012. Binney and Barrett, 2010, states that there are other requirements for Key Stage 2 gymnasts, which fall into different components: physical, skill, aesthetic, creative, psychological, and cognitive. The necessary components addressed can be summarized into 3 categories: key skills, fitness components, and more than just physical. Key skills are necessary to have the ability to be active for life, Bailey and Hamilton's 2004 model. Fundamental motor skills also help to increase physical literacy, which is seen as a success by Sport England from 2023. Fitness components can help categorize aspects of fitness, and some include the necessary skills for gymnasts at this age, the most prominent focus being flexibility and muscular strength. A focus on mental and emotional aspects is important for youth development in academics and well-being, Temporti et al. 2023. as well as developing social skills needed in later years, Finken-Hughes 2019. This, combined with exploration, can help build confidence and creativity, Binney and Barrett 2010. With all these factors in consideration, I need to make sure that I include many variations of activities to fulfill all needs. Goals are defined as objectives that steer actions towards success, University of Michigan 2024, which makes them very important to curriculum planning. By using a variety of assessments, such as assessment of learning and assessment for learning, a wide range of information can be used by the instructor for lesson planning, AIE-SEP Position Statement on Physical Education 2020. I want the gymnast to have success in gymnastics, to be challenged cognitively, and to find joy in the sport. Using all, most, and some categories allows for participants of all skill levels to find success. It is important to recognize that just because a participant falls in the some category of one objective, they may categorize in the all category for another, demonstrating how each individual has their strengths and weaknesses. The all category encompasses what I want every gymnast to do, learn, or feel overall in the 6-week curriculum. The most goals are used as a target for most learners to achieve. I want to see passion, skill progression, and thoughtful approaches to activities. This covers the learning to train aspect of Bailey and Hamilton's 2004 long-term athletic development model. The sum category applies to the most advanced students. In my case, this category covers my 2 gifted gymnasts, but other gymnasts may fall into a few of the sections based on their physical skill level, cognitive ability, or motivation. The other 3 categories of psychomotor, cognitive, and affective make sure that all aspects of physical activity are being met. Grout and Long's book, Improving Teaching and Learning in Physical Education from 2009, emphasizes in Chapter 1 that it is important to have goals that reflect these components to fulfill the national curriculum standards and increase the participants' learning. The goals reflect progressions from basic skill and understanding to advanced skills and having an advanced thought process when tackling gymnastics. Considering the nature of the sport, I have chosen to adopt a nonlinear pedagogy with a constraints-led approach. A nonlinear pedagogy allows for variability in practice, giving the instructor control of the environment so that the setup can do the teaching. This strategy allows for necessary exploration of skills to occur, Chow et al. 2008, without explicitly explaining what to do. By not teaching strictly by voice and worked through examples, this will allow the participants to build confidence and independence through their interactions with the environment, Chow et al. 2016. When the instructor is aware of how the environment will impact certain skills, this shows that they are encouraging certain behaviors to emerge and preventing undesirable behaviors from being developed further. The constraints-led approach allows the constraints of the activity to do the majority of the educating for the participants. Looking at a constraints-led approach, there are 3 components that drive this style: task, organism, and environment. These components make up Newell's 1986 constraints model, which depicts how each piece can be manipulated to impact decision-making and desired behaviors based on the interaction with each component, Newell 1986, Renshaw et al. 2010. This diagram can explain how behaviors can emerge over the course of an activity and help to develop a desired skill, whether that be physical or mental. As an instructor using a constraints-led approach, it is also vital to utilize Roberts et al. 2021 diagram as a way to apply guided principles to PE using a constraints-led approach. A constraints-led approach will be beneficial for the participants, as participants will perceive the environment curated around them to attempt and eventually adopt the desired functional movement patterns. Roberts, Newcomb, and Davids, 2018. A nonlinear pedagogy with a constraints-led approach cannot be implemented without thought of the STEP principle. According to the 2022 Youth Sport Trust, the STEP principle is a strategy that can be implemented to adapt activities for the needs of the group. This allows for modifications to activities to benefit all participants. The STEP principle involves 4 categories that each involve altering some component of an activity to reach a desired behavior. S stands for space, which would include altering the area that the activity is taking place in. T stands for task, which involves manipulating the rules or goals of the activity. E is for equipment, which requires modifying equipment setup for activities, and P is for people and adjusting the people involved in each activity. All of these variables can be manipulated for an activity to work towards developing a desired behavior. Instructors strive to create a learning environment that allows exploration and interaction with the environment to do a majority of the teaching. With well-thought-out learning environment, interactions with the environment will produce spontaneous, desired behaviors. This process is called ecological dynamics. With the application of Newell's 1986 model of the task-organism-environment triangle, I can help the gymnast foster the desired functional movement patterns. The interaction between the perception and action by the participant, which is referred to as the perceptual motor workspace, is key to understand with ecological dynamics. This space is where participants evaluate the factors of the environment to produce a movement to satisfy the environment. With specific constraints laid out by the instructor via the environment, the behavior that emerges should be the desired movement solution. There are 6 key pieces to the framework which can be utilized to elicit desired behaviors, which are wayfinding, affordance and attunement, intentionality, functional movement skills, skill adaptation, and representative learning design. Using these 6 pieces of framework, as well as the models, instructors can ensure that the movement behavior that emerges is desirable and adoptable. Newell 1986, Davids, Hanford, and Williams 1994, Seifert et al. 2018, Button 2020. As I've opted to use a nonlinear pedagogy, my plan going into the 6 weeks is not set in stone. This is because, based on what the group is doing well in and what needs to be worked on, more time may be spent on one section of my plan versus another. This is also why no timeframes have been included for the activities. The plan listed here consists of a first week, a final week, and 7 weeks in between. A regression week and 2 progression weeks have been included in the scenario that either gymnasts need some review and practice on previously learned skills, or they have shown to know skills so well that they do not need to spend a lot of time on it or that section of the practice plan. The weeks do not need to occur in chronological order as the skills are independent of one another. Based on my initial assessment and observations throughout the weeks, the order of weeks is bound to change to best fit the group. Each week focuses on 2 skills, with one skill always being a floor skill. The other skill will be another gymnastics apparatus. The other apparatus is lined up with the floor skill focus of the week for more exposure, exploration, and repetition without repetition. To look at this in practice, in week 2 when we are focusing on jumps and leaps, that will be paired with vaulting practice, as gymnasts can work on jumping and leaping onto higher surfaces, as well as jumping off and encouraging learning on landing mechanics. Other activities have been included that follow the nonlinear pedagogy with a constraints-led approach for a learner-centered curriculum. Activity is called Rotation Obstacle Course, and the goal is to score as many points as possible by completing a cartwheel-like movement on a piece of equipment with an object from one of the bins. It is played on a standard 40-foot by 40-foot gymnastics floor, verified by EBSCO, divided into 3 equal rectangle-shaped sections, allowing for 3 pieces of equipment in each section to avoid collisions and have lots of exploration between the pieces of equipment. The objects from the bins also allow for other skill emergences to occur. In this activity, gymnasts move from one side of the floor to another in a linear fashion, as implied by where the bins of the objects are set up. Directions are not set on the equipment, meaning that they can use the equipment in multiple directions, allowing for exploration of foot dominance without additional altering of the equipment. All the gymnasts will grab an object from a bin and begin to explore the floor and equipment freely. If they don't drop their object and complete a cartwheel-like movement on any of the pieces of equipment, they receive a point. During the activity, the way to score points can change, as I can call out that using different items from different bins or completing a skill in a certain section will get them extra points. This will incentivize them to try skills on new equipment, allowing them to perceive and problem solve in new ways for a reward. Each section of the floor caters to one component of the skill at varying levels, from easiest to hardest. The variety of difficulties allows for all gymnasts to take part in the activity. Section 1 addresses keeping a straight body throughout the cartwheel. The easiest piece of equipment is the flat wall, where gymnasts can pick whether they want to face towards the wall or away from the wall. They will realize that the wall can help give them stability for the skill, which can help them build confidence. The second easiest piece of equipment in this section is the floor balance beam that is 9 feet long and 6 inches wide. Using a thicker beam on the floor allows for harder skills to be attempted while targeting the straight body component. The hardest is doing a cartwheel through the upright panel mats, as they directly constrain the body from bending without knocking over the mats. Section 2 promotes the development and control of power. This section allows for a variety of approaches depending on the direction that the gymnast is using the equipment. On the cheese mat, if the gymnast is cartwheeling down, more control will be needed because of the easily developed power. But going up the cheese mat, a lot more power needs to be generated. The same concept can apply to the springboard panel mat setup. When cartwheeling with hands on the springboard, power will have to be controlled as their feet land. When going to land on the springboard with their feet, the unstable surface will force the gymnast to control the power of their landing. The hardest piece of equipment in this section is the Bosu ball, as it can provide a lot of power because of its bouncy nature, but also requires a lot of muscle control by any part on it. Hands on the Bosu requires more strength and stability in the upper body, while feet on the Bosu need strength and stability in the lower body. The third section of the floor focuses on the extension of the cartwheel-like skill. The easiest piece of equipment is the 4 20-inch diameter hula hoops that imply to put one of each body part in the hoop. This can easily be regressed by gymnasts by putting both hands or both feet in one hoop. But, as an instructor, I can interject with a question to encourage a different behavior to continue to allow for exploration and low structure. The second easiest is the 2 panel mats separated by a 14-inch gap. This gap will force the gymnast to have to stretch out their skill, whether it be from their arms or their legs. The hardest piece of equipment is the panel mat mountain. This is a panel mat folded in the middle to add a little bit of a barrier to the skill. Because of the height of the mountain, gymnasts may have to jump a little bit into their cartwheel to clear the mountain, encouraging the skill of a dive cartwheel, which can then be progressed into a more advanced skill such as an aerial or a roundoff. The materials from the bin will also help bring out desired behaviors. Bin 1 will consist of scars, each being 6 inches by 6 inches. The small and light nature of the scars will encourage 2 scopes of skills to appear, tucking and throwing. Gymnasts may try to tuck the scarf under their chin, but will quickly realize that they cannot perform the skill well with a tucked chin. Eventually, gymnasts will realize that putting the scarf between their arm and ear will keep the scarf in place, which encourages the desired behavior of keeping arms up by the ears. More advanced gymnasts will figure out that they can throw and catch the scarf when they perform a cartwheel quickly, since the scarves fall slowly. Quick cartwheels can lead to quick tumbling like roundoffs. Bin 2 will hold rhythmic gymnastics ribbons. The sticks to the ribbon can easily be held during a skill. The ribbons make loops in the air, which will reflect a stretched out cartwheel. A large loop must be seen for a point to be rewarded to the gymnast. Bin 3 holds small sports balls, like baseballs and tennis balls. These objects are meant to promote a one-handed cartwheel. Balls are more difficult to hold between 2 body parts and cannot be held on the ground during a skill. They can easily be handheld, which will prevent the gymnast from putting their hand down on the ground. A one-handed cartwheel is also good for strengthening shoulder and core muscles due to the increased stability needed. I believe that gymnasts will initially try to throw the ball before doing the skill. Gymnasts will realize that the object is too heavy to be thrown before the skill and caught after. Since I have thought this through as an environment architect, I will not need to say anything, since the gymnast will be receiving feedback from the ball falling heavily. They will try new things to get the ball across the floor, thus adopting the one-handed cartwheel. This activity has a lot of moving parts, involving the equipment placed on the floor, the objects held during skills, and other task and people-related constraints that add to the complexity and goals of the activity. Analyzing the activity through the lens of ecological dynamics, it is clear that it fulfills the criteria set for a nonlinear pedagogy with a constraints-led approach. For example, when viewing the skill adaptation criteria, this was easily met because of the variety of equipment used to target the same component at different levels, as well as giving the gymnasts the freedom to use any equipment they wished. With the considerations of safety, exploration, and the needs of the population in the gymnastics environment, this presentation has demonstrated that using a nonlinear pedagogy with a constraints-led approach is not only possible, but leads to success in the sport of gymnastics. The emphasis of the approach has been represented in many ways, such as the adaptability of the 6-week program, the constraints placed on the activity, and the verbal commentary to help the desired behavior be performed. A purposeful learning environment helps these young girls develop gymnastic skills, but more importantly, achieves the goals I set for them of having success in gymnastics, being challenged cognitively, and finding joy in the sport. The use of a non-traditional coaching style has helped me to achieve these goals and will benefit the gymnast in the long run with the increased physical literacy, confidence, and joy for movement.